Welcome to the White Mountain Education Association Sunday broadcast. Today I'm going to be talking about gratitude. Gratitude to the teachers of the Ageless wisdom. Think of a single candle lighting another in a dark room. The flame passed, but the first candle lost none of its light. It does not divide its brilliance, it's multiplying its brilliance. What we trace together this morning is that flame, that torch, and the question of how it has been passed hand to hand, age to age, teacher to teacher, without ever once going out. This is the nature of the Ageless Wisdom teaching and its teachers. Where would any of us be without the teachers who passed their torch to us? From my earliest school days, I have been blessed with educators who gave me a strong sense of purpose. But my traditional education was really just preparation for something deeper. It readied me to study under some amazing teachers of the Ageless Wisdom. Their guidance eventually led me to a student of Alice Bailey. He became the founder of Centers of Light in California and Arizona, a prolific author, and a direct student in the lineage of Master Moria. To me, he wasn't just a prolific author and direct student or founder of the Centers of Light. He was a living embodiment of the principles we study. I remember a specific moment when I watched him handle intense criticism, where most of us would have reacted with defense or ego. He listened. He didn't attack back. He used that moment not to protect his own pride, but to find a teaching moment demonstrating that true spiritual leadership is not being about untouchable. It is about remaining entirely open, completely open, yet unshakable in the fire of the teaching. This is the living example I try to hold in my mind. Looking back on this journey, I know how truly blessed I have been. My greatest joy today is the opportunity to pass on their teaching, sharing the path of the Ageless Wisdom and Agni Yoga, and all of you who seek it. The fire they pass to me is part of a much larger flame. And so, as we begin today, I want to take a moment to reflect on my deep gratitude for all the leaders, teachers, gurus who are working so hard to keep the flame of the teaching burning for generations to come. Now, as human beings, they naturally had their weaknesses. Perhaps there were times they carried away, or they got carried away by their visions, or moments when they or their followers fell short of the very principles they taught. But it was exactly these experiences, their failures, just as much as their successes, that forged them, training them to shoulder even greater responsibility. Through it all, their human imperfections did not stop the light. The torch was carried on. They became the most sacrificial servers, eventually devoting their lives, their entire lives, to raising the spirituality of others and to meeting the mental, emotional, and physical needs of others. It is perhaps easy for some to criticize the carrier of the fire. Yet these are the very people who bring us the most precious gifts of life. People today often dismiss modern spiritual leaders, claiming that the only true dependable teachers existed in the ancient past. But anyone who says this hasn't truly understood history. There was not a single great teacher in the past who wasn't attacked by the people of their own time. Even figures of absolute purity, Pythagoras, Socrates, Jesus, Apollonius, were not able to escape the executioner's hands. We still see people today criticizing our spiritual teachers, condemning them, based entirely on their own narrow measures. There are those who look down on every effort made to carry that torch forward, completely blind to the fact that without these efforts, our world would plunge into darkness. But true philosophers do not condemn. They do not attack a religion, a church. They patiently observe. Rather, they see how these various religious, metaphysical, or New Age activities actually nourish people. They see how they keep human aspiration alive. They see how they keep the torch burning, knowing it is never a noble act for a church to attack another church, a group to attack another group, or a teacher to attack another teacher. Ultimately, the greatest servers are those who embody more inclusivity, more sacrifice, more love, and more understanding. Yet we must remember that this more can only be achieved by starting with less. We must be willing to learn our lessons today, to seek the path and the purpose clearly so that we may eventually become leaders worthy of trust. We must accept that no one can fully protect themselves from attack, slander, and treason. The world is too full of contradictions. We constantly see thieves in power, judging the pure in heart. We see criminals condemning those leaders who may have accidentally stumbled. We even read of dishonest leaders sitting as judges, silencing anyone who tries to expose the truth. Very often, when we see harsh condemnation, we are witnessing something unresolved within the condemner. Let us choose a different path. Let us choose gratitude. We must give appreciation to everyone who brings us to the great ideas of the teaching. We must express gratitude to all those who created group visions and brought us to the great ideas of the teaching. We must thank those who plant these treasures across the world through their speech, their sacrificial service, their writing, and their art. Yes, these servers can have personal weaknesses, like I said earlier, because they are human. But we cannot let those human weaknesses prevent us from being deeply, genuinely grateful for the light they have brought into the world. There is another danger on the path that we must be aware of. Sometimes, after reading just a few books and associating themselves with an earthly teacher, people slowly develop a very specific kind of sickness. It can best be described, well, perhaps somewhat humorously, but very accurately, as the everyone is stupid except me syndrome. When this mental disease takes hold, it follows a predictable pattern. The person begins to develop ego, vanity, and a sense of separatism. They become highly critical, and their thoughts create disturbances. Disturbances within their group or the environment. Soon, they isolate themselves, sometimes even resigning from the groups just to prove that they are somebody. Ultimately, they plunge backward into the life they lived before the path, falling into old vices deeper than ever. A dear friend used to say, a star falls deeper into the mud if it is thrown down from a higher altitude. To heal from this, a person must sincerely study the principles of beauty and goodness, righteousness and joy and freedom and striving. Only by recognizing how they failed to value others and by finding a true humility can they return to a purer light. But they show the signs of their sickness this is so interesting, long before it takes them down. Here's a story. A student was sitting on a high cliff with their teacher, looking out over the valley. The teacher pointed out 6 people in a meadow far below them. Watch them, the teacher told the student. They are drinking. They watched as 10 minutes later, one of them got up, stumbled for half a mile, and fell on their face. The others ignored them. A little while later, more of them tried to walk, faltered, and collapsed. Finally, one person staggered toward the cliff, but they too fell before they could reach it. The teacher turned to the student. Sitting on this cliff, she said, we saw exactly how it started, how it continued, and how it ended. She stood up, carrying a deep sadness for those below, and left the student with the thought, one part of us must always remain on the cliff. Otherwise, we become what we observe. This is how consciousness is broadened. Not in great leaps, but in small steps. But how do we actually build this inner cliff? In our fast-paced modern lives, it is so easy to get swept down into the valley of our reactions. Building the cliff requires a daily activity, practice of the daily activity or the practice of self-observation. It means pausing before you send that defensive email. It means taking a breath when you feel you sent that defensive email, taking that breath. It means taking a breath when you feel the hot flash of judgment rising in your mind. When you feel yourself slipping into the valley of ego, you must consciously ask yourself, who is speaking right now? Is it my higher self or is it my ego? This simple act, pausing, builds the cliff stone by stone. It elevates our consciousness so that we are no longer a victim of your own trapped emotions, but a silent observer of them. And I'm going to take a moment here because I'm having an ocular migraine. And what that means is that I have this light, which is very interesting, this light that is spraying all over the place, and it's really hard for me to see my notes. So let me just take a moment to pause and to think about our gratitude for the teachers. I remember when I met my first teacher, she was fairly young. She was the daughter of a judge and so on fire with metaphysics. She carried a light with her that it wasn't so much what she taught, but the light that I was drawn to. I spent maybe 3 years with her giving introductory teaching, and then she became ill and died. And I was so honored the fact that her family asked me to conduct her memorial service. I thought, what a gift she gave me, I could give back to her. Every teacher that I've ever had has always given their most. I think in today's society, humanity in general has lost sight of what others have given to us. We become so stressed with just living day to day, paying our bills, dealing with betrayal, and competition. Competition is so incredibly intense in today's society. No matter what kind of job you have, no matter what you do, there's always somebody right off to your side that is competing with you. And in that competition, they'll belittle you. But not a teacher of light, not a teacher of the ageless wisdom. They may be tough on us, and the teacher that most of us here had recognized that toughness was in fact anchored in the heart of his love. And we learn to accept that kind of love and not turn around and criticize that nature of shaping us. When you're with a teacher of light that is shaping you, you must have humility. If you don't have humility, you're going to leave. I've seen many, many, many people that left him because, why? Of the lack of humility. I see people that leave the teaching. Why? Because of the lack of humility, which means they don't want to learn something new. They just want to learn what they already know, have what they already know confirmed, and that they're part of that confirmation. So they stay the same. And by the time they come to the end of their life, they're disappointed with life. They look back on their life and they have nothing of themselves that they have given to others, only what they have taken. So just being around these great teachers from ancient history up to now, it's worth letting them shape us. It's worth living a life of humility. And it is certainly a joy to be in an environment within an environment of people that have studied with such teachers, because they are people of sacrificial service, people of light themselves. They want to strive to become better human beings and to bring the gift of love and light and spiritual power to humanity. So now that spray of light is moving over here. So I think I can see my notes. Let me go on. So we so easily defeat ourselves and fall straight into the pit of vanity. How is this? By exaggerating our virtues and harshly condemning the faults of others. It is a dangerous internal game, but we build a shining, good image of ourselves in our consciousness, while at the same time we plant the ugly image of the person we condemn right beside it. When we become attached to a self-image of being good and condemn others, the energy of condemnation strengthens the very qualities that we are rejecting until we begin to embody them ourselves. You see this in people who experience a superficial, artificial, spiritual nature. Those who suddenly believe that they are saved or that they are the chosen one. They spend all their energy judging others. They fixate on the flaws of other people that are actually a reflection of their own lives. And so they slowly degenerate, hiding beneath a fragile blanket of holiness that is destined to fall away. Those who achieve greater heights on the path become extremely careful not to find fault with others. Instead, they keep themselves busy in joyous labor, seeking out the seeds of beauty in people and cultivating those seeds with all their love. Through this attitude, the faults of others lose the power to contaminate the disciple's own consciousness. A disciple's measure is always equal to their freedom. Just think about that. It can be a seed thought. A disciple's measure is always equal to their freedom. The freer a disciple is from their lower nature, the more inclusive their measures become, and the more sensitive they are to the essential beauty in everyone. This heartfelt sensitivity naturally leads to compassion. Compassion. What is compassion? Compassion is an all-involving love. It is an integrating, inspiring, and creative factor. It is a two-way flow. It sees both sides of any issue, event, or happening, and understands why. Compassion is not pity. Pity is nothing. And merely feeling sorry for those who suffer does not help anyone. In fact, true compassion is greater than love. It is the fountainhead of love. In compassion, pure intelligence, pure love, and pure will are combined into one living unit. Compassion does not weaken. It organizes, it directs, and transforms. It is the urge to eliminate the suffering of others, to provide them with the principles and rules that bring health, happiness, prosperity, and creativity. It helps people stop recreating the very cause of their pain. We can see the difference between the pity and compassion in the simplest daily acts. So for me, it is tangible as caring for my Senegal parrot. My parrot's name is Devi, D-E-V-I, which stands for a little angel, which is not really true. But she can grow into that little angel name. If Debbie were ever distressed or lacking what she needs, simply feeling sorry for her does absolutely nothing to help her. True compassion demonstrating itself through what? Through action, would be the physical daily act of care. The physical daily act of care is compassion. It would be measuring out her proper diet, cleaning her space, and providing the environment she needs to thrive. It is a consistent and sometimes unglamorous effort, which Val can really attest to. This is exactly how we must approach humanity's suffering. We cannot just look at the world, sigh, and feel sad or angry. We must ask, what can I provide today to actually eliminate a cause of suffering? It is fascinating to notice that when a person engages in malice or slander or betrayal, they pretend to be someone entirely different, as if dressing up to play a role in a drama. This happens because one's true essence cannot engage in something ugly. To justify the action, we have to change our image. Some people even use alcohol or drugs before committing a crime just so they can be someone else. This someone else-ness gives them the excuse to do what they want to do. If we understand this, we can stop ourselves before it is too late. When we are tempted, the most important thing we can do is pause, recognize who we truly are, and observe the action we are about to take. That simple observation warns us not to identify with the ugly action, saving us from our own trap. In everything we have ever regretted, we can see this exact pattern. We temporarily become something other than we truly are. Those who teach the ageless wisdom try by all possible means to make their students grow and evolve to the point where they take their education and service into their own hands. The relationship between teacher and student follows a sacred rhythm. Initially, instructions are systematized along definite lines, but as the students advance, the teacher gradually leaves them free. There is a natural tendency for immature students to cling to their teachers, believing they need formal, organized sets of teaching to advance. While this attitude is appropriate at the early stages of the path, it must not defeat their potential. Every teacher's ultimate plan is to make their students self-propelled. They want students to find the creative source of energy within themselves and through self-initiated effort reach higher states of consciousness and greater fields of service. At intervals, students must be left alone, as if no one were even interested in them, especially the teacher. If they have the true urge for discipleship, they will make every effort to create certain disciplines for themselves. Self-made efforts are sometimes far more valuable than encouragement given by others. Many students are fueled by outer influences or self-interest. Therefore, the teacher must tactfully create obstacles to test the flow of the student's desire. Ultimately, they'll stabilize it. An experienced teacher avoids forming overly close ties or even chasing would-be students. Instead, the student's solemnity and sincerity prompt the teacher to help them. To test sincerity, a teacher might even ignore the person's application for study or say, "I am busy for a while. Come later. Go and study with others. Why do you want to study with me? I want to see you in 2 years." Here's a story. There is an ancient tradition in some Zen monasteries where an applicant is required to sit outside the gates for days, sometimes in the rain, being ignored or even turned away by the monks. Only those whose desire to learn outweighs their pride and physical discomfort are finally allowed to come inside. Can you imagine that in today, particularly in the United States? Oh my. Welcoming anyone without discernment can lead to failure. The teacher must look for the applicant's true underlying desire to strive. It is a mistake for a teacher to get excited simply before or because someone arrives saying, "I am ready. I want to learn and cultivate my potential." Often these applicants speak only of self-interest. They want to learn, but they do not say why. The goal of the teaching is not to fill the mind with data. It is to make us a self-sacrificial servant of humanity. If a student's main reason for learning is to feel great or gain a personal advantage, they must wait until their ego and vanity disappears. Betrayers of the teaching come from ranks of those who use it for self-interest. And they say things like, "I want to be smart. I want to be prosperous. I want to be able to influence people." While meditation develops the mind, controls emotions, and creates a healthier body, these gifts can be used for separative and selfish interests. Meditation is useless unless it is inspired by sacrificial service and a desire to enter the supramundane world. A teacher must be careful not to give wisdom to those who will use it to create barriers and hatred and manipulation. As one teacher said while refusing to admit a person into their monastery, If you stay out of the teaching, it will be better for you, because in your case, the teaching will nourish the beasts that are within you. We must be careful not to nourish our inner beasts: fear, anger, hatred, jealousy, and malice, until they destroy us under their hooves. The teaching truly begins the moment a person's heart bleeds for the pain of others, and they feel the spiritual urge to sacrifice themselves for humanity. Those who approach the teaching may have all kinds of vices, but they can still enter the temple if they carry two vital lights: compassion and the urge to sacrifice. These two lights will prevent them from being devoured by their own beasts and will give them the power to surmount all weaknesses, to become worthy participants of the teaching. We must always remember that the purpose of the teaching and the teacher is not just to awaken the sleeping divinity within us, but to give us the wisdom to actualize it through every single moment of our lives. So in conclusion, let us leave today with gratitude in our hearts. Gratitude for the teachers who carried the torch when it would have been easier to set it down. Gratitude for the path they illumined through their service. And gratitude for the trust they placed in us by passing that flame into our hands. For the greatest act of gratitude we can offer them, not a word, for the greatest act of gratitude we can offer them is not a word of thanks. It is a life that proves we are worthy of the gift. It is the way we think, the way we serve, and the way we carry their light, without dividing it, without dimming it, into every life we touch. The candle that lights another loses nothing. Let us be that candle. Thank you.